It's interesting. I wonder if anybody who does, pollination services, if they've ever put the bees out there for them and had the bees go, not interested in this stuff, go over there, and pollinate somebody else's stuff.
So alfalfa. So alfalfa is a crop that you can get honey from, and it's also they use it for hay to feed horses and cows. But the farmers that grow the alfalfa seed, they struggled when they were trying to use honeybees to pollinate them, because the alfalfa plant has this little trip mechanism that snaps onto the head of the honeybee, and the honeybee hates that. And so the new foragers, they don't know how to go around it, but after a few times, they learn how to go around that trap, get the nectar for the honey, but not get the pollen. So they were not actually pollinating the alfalfa flowers. So they actually got the type of species of bee. It's called an alfalfa bee, and those actually are adapted to that. And so those are great for pollinating. They're not in a big beehive. They're a solitary bee. So yeah, the honeybees will get the flower from the alfalfa, but they won't pollinate it because they hate that little trip mechanism that'll hit them in the head. And so they learn, I don't want to do this. I'll just sneak around and suck out the nectar from the side.
If somebody was snapping at me every time I got near it, I think I'd avoid it too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting how smart they really are. You don't really think of an insect as being smart, and yet they are, and they show that in so many of their behaviors. It's just wild.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I look at a beehive and I see these new baby bees that they just emerged, and they're fluffy, and it's like they're like a newly hatched baby chick or something.
Little fuzzy baby
and I look at them and I'm like, oh, they're like kittens. Look at them. And non-beekeepers like, you're just weird. I'm like, okay.
Well, as long as you're not picking them up, and petting them and stuff, I suppose it's all right.
Come on, I've petted
and it's so funny. Jeannie my wife Jeannie was talking with one of her friends, and they're like, oh, how's Tom doing? Where's Tom at? And she said, oh, he's out with his girlfriends. And they're like, girlfriends?
All 28,000 of them, yeah.
How many girlfriends does he have? Well, a few million. We don't really know. We haven't counted. And they're like, a few million? Is this on Facebook? And she's like, no, there's bees. He's just out there with his girlfriends. There's bees.
Oh, God. That's awesome. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I had a friend whose husband was a cattle farmer and called them his girls.
Yeah.
So totally.
And they usually are pretty calm and gentle. You can kind of tell. I hate wearing a bee suit, and I mean I will if I'm messing with them or going to upset them. And I almost never wear gloves. But if you learn about them and you learn their moods, they'll warn you. I mean, they're getting upset. They'll start running on the comb, or they'll start flying up into your face, and they're kind of warning you. It's like, you better back off, or the next you're going to get stung in the eye or something like that. It's kind of like a dog. I mean, you mean a strange dog if it's he's happy and wagging his tail. It's like, oh, hi, buddy, you can pet him. But if he's kind of growling, it's like you better go give him a hug or something. You let him smell you and get to know him. And bees are kind of like that too.
Well, I suppose. I mean, if you tick them off, it's funny, I've never feared honeybees. I fear wasps, but wasps are assholes.
Oh, yeah.
Wasps are assholes. I've been stung twice by them.
Yeah, they are. They're just in a perpetual...
They don't warn you. They just sting.
Yeah, they're just in a bad mood all the time. But
exactly.
There's no risk to them if they sting you.
They're just assholes.
And bumblebees are jerks too. But honeybees, I mean, if you don't...
I've never had a honeybee. I've never had a bumblebee be a jerk to me. And the only people I know who've been stung by bumblebees either disturbed a nest or stepped on one.
Yeah.
I don't know. We live in aggressive ones.
North Carolina's got ones that come and they buzz you like swallows when you come too close to their nests. They're ridiculous.
Well, and get away from their nests.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not by the bumblebee nests, you know. The swallows, you don't know they're the nests until they dive bomb you, and then you're like, oh, sorry. You know?
Yeah, yellow jackets and wasps and hornets, they're more carnivorous. You know, they eat other insects. I guess they have a purpose, but they attack my bees in the fall. So I don't really like wasps very much. And it's kind of asking a sheep farmer, what does he think about coyotes? You know, it's like, well, yeah, they have a purpose, but I don't like them attacking my sheep.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather have the rabbits.
Fall, I watched this yellow jacket get into one of my hives, and it snuck in there, and I'm like, I wonder what happened. And not even a few seconds later, I see this bee coming out carrying something. And I'm like, well, what is that? I looked a little closer, and it was the head of the yellow jacket. And a few moments later, the other bee was carrying the body of the yellow jacket. They decapitated it. And I'm like, go, girls. Yeah.
Just get them.
It's amazing when you go out there, in the summer and the honey flow is on. That means the flowers are all blooming. And the thing about bees is they smell so good. There's all kinds of livestock, and yeah, horse sweat smells kind of good, but then they produce manure, and that doesn't always smell so good.
Not so
but
good,
bees,
yeah.
they smell so good. They have this scent about them of, the wax and the propolis and just the bees themselves, and then the honey. And you can go out there on a warm summer evening, and the hive is just roaring. I mean, it's just buzzing, because even though it's night, they're not sleeping. They're trying to evaporate the water off of that honey, or off that nectar to concentrate it into honey. And you can smell that. I mean, it's sort of the whole apiary smells like the flowers that they're working. And I can tell by, what kind of flowers are working by how it smells in the apiary, just from the honey being evaporated off. And it's an amazing thing. I've done it for so long, I still go out there, and usually with a glass of mead helps.
Okay.
And then I can smell, what kind of flowers the bees are working.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I guess that's why I take mead making so seriously. The first mead that I had made was so awful. I didn't come back to it for a while, but as a beekeeper, I feel it's my duty to make something delicious with it. Honey is not perfect as is, and the best I can do is to make something at least as perfect, and maybe even a little bit more perfect if possible. And, I think I did the math for like one 750 ml bottle of like 12% mead. The bees had to fly, I think it's 26,000 miles approximately to make the honey in that one bottle of mead. 26,000 miles. I mean, I don't want to make something that's crappy. I want to make something that's good.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. 26,000 miles, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's an estimate on, how far they fly to make a pound of honey, obviously. So, maybe they don't have to fly quite as far. But yeah, that's 26,000 miles. That's a huge distance.
Yeah. Oh, David Webb is on the live chat, and he's asking, what do you recommend for treating varroa mites?
Oh boy, those little bastards! I hate varroa. They're incestuous little bloodsuckers. They actually are incest.
Tell us what you really think, Tom.
Yeah, I hate those little. So varroa mites. So that's one of the main reasons why we've been losing beehives across the United States. There's several reasons, of course, but about 100 years ago, beekeepers in Asia brought European honeybees to eastern Russia, where they became exposed to another species of honeybee, the Asian honeybee, and there was this mite that lived on that Asian honeybee that really didn't hurt it, but it got onto the European honeybees, and they had no natural resistance. And so what these mites do is they suck on the bees, and they also live on the baby bees when the mite is reproducing, and so they spread these viruses that end up weakening your hive and eventually can kill it. And think about having a tick on you that's about the size of a dinner plate, and you can't get it off, and it's just sucking on you. And they do.
All right,
they
now
look
I'm
like
not
little
going to
miniature
sleep
ticks.
tonight, Tom. Thank you.
They're awful little.
I mean, waking up in the middle of the night going,
female-
tick, I got a tick.
It's like they are. They're so awful. And so the mother mite, she goes into the larva where the bee larva is before it gets capped, and she lays eggs. And the first egg she lays is a male, and all the other ones are female. And that male mite mates with his own sisters. I mean, seriously, they're incestuous by how they naturally mate.
Yuck.
I mean, that's exactly their natural. And so when the mites first came in, I don't lose very many beehives now, but I remember a few years ago, I had one year where I lost like 80% of my beehives, and it was devastating. I mean, there was a moment where I went down and sat under a tree in the bee yard, and I just cried my eyes out for about 10 minutes because you felt so helpless, and you felt like you're the most awful beekeeper there is in the world. But I started breeding from the bees that survived, and so we're trying to breed for bees that are more resistant to the mites. And so, anyway, to answer Dave's question, a lot of beekeepers are using some pesticide chemical things like Coumaphos and stuff like that. But the problem is it makes the mites resistant, and the problem is it's kind of toxic to the bees. I mean, you're trying to, a chemical to kill a mite can be harsh to the bee. And so what I've been using, and only once a year and only when I need to, is some of the organic acids. So there's formic acid and which is naturally made by ants. That's not where they get it from. And then oxalic acid, which is naturally occurs like in rhubarb. And it irritates the mite. So it's like the skeleton of the bee is a lot tougher than the skeleton of the mite. So it kind of makes them drop off, and you can keep the population under control. But what we're trying to do is breed for bees that are just naturally resistant to the mites. And there's a group in Indiana. There's Dr. Hunt in Purdue, and people call them the ankle biter bees. But their mites don't have ankles, so you shouldn't call them the ankle biter bees. But they breed these bees that will pull the mites off of each other, and it's the coolest thing. They actually will pull the mite and chew it up and spit it out.
So they're sort of like monkeys picking fleas off each other.
Yeah, they're grooming each other. Yeah, and all the bees will do that to some extent, but it's hard for them to actually detect the mite because the mite, it actually is chemically invisible. You know, the beehive is completely pitch black, so they can't really smell them if they're chemically invisible. So they're trying to breed them so they can actually detect the mite better. So that's what I do when I'm breeding my queen bees. I'm trying to, because that's my main bee business. You know, everybody says, "Oh, you're a beekeeper. You must make honey," and I'm like, "Well, of course I make honey. I'm a beekeeper." But the main reason is I want to breed queen bees so that I can sell to other beekeepers. But I want to breed queen bees that are going to be healthier and are going to have characteristics in their beehives that we want. So you want a beehive that produces a lot of honey. You want one that, you know, they're not diseased, that they can maybe resist the mites a little bit. You want them to be nice. I mean, you don't want to go out to the bee yard and they're all stinging the hell out of you. You know, I've had beehives like that. You know, it's like those go away.
Yeah. Bob Slan said he had one that they would like start stinging him when he was like yards and yards from the beehives, so, like following him, hunt him down and sting him, you know.
Yeah, and that's mostly genetics. So, you know, you find the old queen and you kind of pinch her really quick and that, you know, put her to her end, and then you put a new queen in the colony, and then in several weeks they basically change because the worker bees don't live very long in the summer, only a few weeks. They basically work themselves to death.
So you can flip the
and I never
hive
liked
basically
queening, but
pretty
when
quick.
it's a mean hive like that, I don't mind requeening. I almost look forward to it. It's like, yeah, get rid of that one.
Yeah, Bobby's saying his ankle biter comes tomorrow. He's got a new hive.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I've had 25 hives in a bee yard, and they're all nice. I'm out there working them t-shirts and shorts, and there's this one hive that already like stinging me, and I'm not even I'm 20 feet away, and it's like, no, I don't think I'm going to keep you. But the other thing too is then, so it's hard to control the genetics of your bees, and as a bee breeder, I need to do that. If we're trying to raise purebred dogs and your dog was in heat, you wouldn't say, well, let's kick her out tonight and see if she mates with a lab or has a poodle or I don't know, whatever, Which is so as a bee breeder, I actually do insemination of the queens, and that's done under a microscope. And I'm a sciencey kind of guy. Then there's only several dozen of us in the country that do that regularly. But that way, I can get the male bee from the one hive that I like, and then the queen bee from the other, and I can cross them, and I can, I know exactly what their genetics are.
You know exactly what you're getting.
Exactly.
I feel like
and
you need
Jeannie's
to have
wonderful.
Mike Rowe come over.
Wives that will let their husbands have a microscope in the house, and with inseminating bees. But what the heck? I could be doing other things.
There are worse hobbies.
But when I went down to Arizona, and the inseminating is kind of fun. You have to be really just relaxed and calm. But the part I hate about it, I wish I could pay somebody to do it, is collecting the drone semen. So the drones are the male bees. And,
I gotta hear this.
Yeah, so when I was learning how to do it, I went down to Arizona, and one of my friends said, "Well, how's it going?" I said, collecting drone semen. My hands, they just get so sticky. And it's not from what you think. It's not from what you think. The drones, they get so excited when you're trying to collect it, they spit up honey, so your hands get all sticky from the honey. So it's not actually from what you think.
Sorry,
because
they get so excited, you say?
Yeah, they get so excited because you're stimulating them. Yeah, we call it stimulating them, and then you collect the semen. And unfortunately, when the male bees mate, the drones mate naturally up in the sky. Their all their genitalia is internal, but then it expresses and goes external into the queen, and then they fall down and die. So they actually die in the act, and that's what happens. And I hope it's good for them. I mean, it's like, well, that's what they're designed for. But so when I collect the semen, they die in the act also. So again, I hope it's good for them. And what can I say?
Honestly.
God.
Well, I try to play some soft music, put on the candles. I got to get the cozies in the mood.